Hello, my name is Ross Waterston, the creator and founder of Geordie Consulting and Geordie Intelligence, the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. What I thought we would do today is extend where we went to last week, okay? Because I think we're starting to land a lot of concepts and it's really important, I think, for you to understand, especially where it conflicts with what a lot of people are putting out there and said, oh, Power BI does this, oh, you can do that, oh, it's amazing. There's a lot of it, you kind of go, yeah, we can go so far, and then the wheels fall off. And when the wheels fall off, that's when you can actually get into an awful lot of trouble with it. So it's better if we take the time, discuss it now, and really understand what it is that we're trying to do with Power BI within our environment, and why Geordie Consulting and Geordie Intelligence recommend doing it in very particular ways, as opposed to some of the other things that are being mentioned. But first, let's cover the boring bit. Geordie Intelligence is a YouTube channel. YouTube channels are terrible. No one knows if they're good or bad or not, so you kind of have to tell them. So what you have to do is you have to go down and leave a comment. You do that now, we can wait for you. We'll just wait, leave a comment. We'll do it now, okay? Leave a comment, let us know what you think. Is it good, is it bad, is it terrible? Like the channel and like the video content as well. It's really important that the algorithm sees that the stuff is good. If you don't like it, hit the don't like button as well. It's important, again, that I understand what people don't like. And it helps, put a comment in and tell me what you don't like, or tell me what you do like. So last week, we started this, didn't we? Okay, we laid out a basic app, okay? And it is really basic. I'm not going to pretend and say, oh, we've made this amazing app. We will do an app. That'll be one of the things I will do offline at the end of this video. Let's build a proper app so that we have something to discuss in the final week. And, well, not the final week, in the final week, recorded week before we do a live stream. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. Okay, so let's just make sure we get the theory ironed out and clear in our heads. Yeah? So if you remember, what we did was we effectively created 3 thin reports on it. Okay, we used year for those thin reports. A year is kind of a reasonable one. What the suspicion or the general best practice would be kind of, you might have current year, previous year, current month, previous month, current quarter, previous quarter. There's different report cycles that you've got within your landscape. And then you have a nice dashboard screen to make it really easy for people to find the insights that they want to look at today. And that's something it's really important to kind of wrap your head around that. And one of the things that's never really covered in a lot of topics that I see, or in a lot of the video courses that I see, is the concept of what a dashboard is within Power BI. And I've ended up coming up with kind of, this is what it is, my view of it. And it's slightly different, I think, from what a lot of the suggested texts say, but I think it's the right description, which is, it's just a menu. Okay, if you think of it as a menu system that will be like that front page, that contents page for your app, then it lands correctly. That's exactly what it is. The nice thing with it is it updates automatically. One of the other things you can do is you can actually start to tie other elements into a dashboard. So one of the things that we've done in the past, and that we're starting to look at again, and that we really do recommend to so many clients, the amount of clients who say, oh, this is great, this is great. The amount of clients who go, I don't understand, right? Metrics are great. But metrics, dashboards, and getting everything starting to be combined is definitely well worth it. So if we have a look here, we've got our metrics page for our England food hygiene. Okay? And if we expand the number of businesses, and we can go to the number of businesses in the Northeast, for example, what we can see, okay, is that the number's increasing. Right? And I could say, well, show me a target if I've got a target. In this case, it's just arbitrary targets. That target could be based on another value from your data. Okay, and the point with this was always around that we can actually start to get really clever with the way we use metrics, because they have this check-in capability that we can start to say, oh, well, this is what's happened. And we can see here, these have been checked in at different times. We've got the capability, well, we wrote, if we go back and have a look at the video, and I'll put a link up there or up there, I can't remember which side it appears, to go and check out the video where we talked about this. But the capability that you get with metrics is huge. Okay, the functionality you get, and then especially when you start to say, well, we can combine this in the way we did previously, where we actually wrote a PowerApp that allowed people to go and update and add comments, and then they fed back through. And then knowing that you can bring this content into a Power BI report that you can then put onto a PowerPoint so that you can go into your boardroom with this, it's just like game changery. Okay, could you imagine being able to show, oh, this is what's happened? I mean, we've got here, which is brilliant. This is West Midlands, and there's been a huge drop-off. I mean, it's not huge, but we've lost 300 or 400 businesses. 300 businesses, maybe? So something's happened there. We'd want to understand what it was. It might be as simple as saying, actually, the number of local authorities that respond have dropped off, or it might be that something else has happened. But it's interesting that we can see these things, and to know as well, if we go right to the end, this is keeping up, this is up to date, this is today. And it isn't something that I'm putting any effort into. The metrics, once they're established, once they're set up, they run and they refresh and they keep themselves up to date and they tell you what's happening. So we can see at our top level, in terms of number of businesses across England, we can see the changes. We can see over a period of time where it wasn't refreshing properly, okay, and we've then got it back up, and it's carried on. It's a really powerful way of working that it establishes a capability that if you weren't aware of it, or if you were trying to do something else, you would need to really put in place a full, proper database solution that was going to scrape and build up this tracking over time, right? It's one of the things we've done actually as we're progressing in terms of, as we're starting to talk about the channel that we've got. So we've actually built some metrics for the channel. Very simple YouTube stats, just looking at number of watches, where we are, subscriptions, all that kind of thing. And it just tracks it simply, easily, without anybody having to do anything. It's just available and tracked. So we've got a capability within the platform to do something that previously you would have really needed to get heavyweight database solutions involved. Really, this is one of the things that, well, Fabric will fix it for you. And when you think, well, metrics kind of does a lot of that thing that you might need as an initial, just there, free. It boggles the mind that more businesses aren't using metrics. For what they are and what they do, you should be using them. But if you remember, we went back here and we looked, didn't you, remember? So I'm not sure what you think about this. Is this sensible? Is it not sensible? I can show you, obviously, for our internal one where we're starting to build the stats. It's all in one workspace, but it's in one workspace because there's not enough to really justify splitting it out like we're doing with our back to basics. Not enough to split it out. But if you were doing an enterprise-wide solution, you'd probably want to split it out. You'd probably want to have multiple data workspaces because potentially you've got different teams looking after different platforms. So you need to be considering all of that as well, don't you? Then those do all come together. And that's why, as we say, if we come back to our workspaces, we've created this B2B models. And models is one. This is a workspace genuinely I struggle with, okay? Because I know the advice I'm giving and why I give it, but I can't help but look and think, am I being wrong, okay? And the reason for saying, let's have one workspace for all your models to come together is because we're doing Power BI and we're doing it right. And we've got our center of excellence, a team of people who are doing that as it were. A lot of what they're doing is modeling. And it makes sense. That's one team doing that work, put it all in one place for them to do that work in. The thing to remember is the data comes from somewhere else, like it does today. So the somewhere else is managed potentially by somebody else, but it might be the same team doing it, but at least it puts it separately. It's in a different mindset. If your business changes, you sell an area, you do something else, you change a platform, you've got a very consistent package to say, for our reporting, we need these columns to come through. If these columns aren't going to come through, what are we doing to replace it? What do we need to do to remediate? How can we test, validate, and do all those pieces of work? So that's why we say about having the ETL workspaces, where typically we put data flows, but they could be other things. If you went down the route of saying, oh, well, we've got data lakehouse that's coming through and doing this, then potentially, yeah, you might say, well, we're just going to have a data lakehouse landing in our model workspace. And at that point, we say, yeah, it makes sense. We do things like that because there's something else going on. But you might be saying, we want multiple lakehouses depending on who's going to be able to do ETL processing to actually land data into the lakehouse. And that's the same way you go back and you get to that whole point of saying, like, it's gone out of fashion, hasn't it? Where it used to be silver, bronze, silver, gold. I think they're now like silver, gold, platinum, or whatever it is. But that you have tiers of data in terms of raw, like starting to be structured, and then curated data, where you have different structures. And so there isn't a one size fits all for this, and that's why it's difficult. And that's why we always say, take the time early in your project life cycle and decide exactly what it is you want to do and what fits your organization, not my recommendations. I always take on board my recommendations and say, all right, I understand what Ross was saying, but it needs to work in the context of your organization to be successful. If it's not going to work in that context, it won't be successful. And if it's not successful, we shouldn't waste our time with it. So let's imagine that I've got 2 or 3 data sets in here, and let's go to the one that we did with this. Okay, so if we come here and we look at our lineage, and we can see this is data model workspace, New York City bikes. Okay, so we had the bikes data in here, and we had, and again, this is an important thing to understand. In our context for this, for the New York single pane of glass senior leadership team report pack, we had these coming from different workspaces. So the bike aggregations were coming from bikes, data model workspace for the water tower inspections. And then we had the data model yellow taxis for it. And again, this was because of different things that went through. Again, nothing wrong with saying, but we've got 3 different workspaces because 3 different teams are doing it. They all land separately and it comes in here. That's fine. The point would always be decide. We can see we could do it from single, we could do it from 3 different workspaces. Both will work. The point, though, was always that when we went to here, our dashboard, okay, and remember, this is our menu system, our top level menu, I would see here is a dashboard of information about the data. I do not need at any point to be fully aware of what goes on for this to land here. Okay? As an audience member, I'm seeing one thing. I'm not seeing this comes from 3 different locations, potentially involving hundreds of different people building this data set together. What appears here is what has been defined and agreed as a top tier metric. And we can see here we got like this year versus last year in the context of this. Got journeys this year, journeys last year, tip percentage this year, tip percentage last year. We could see, oh, okay, what's going on? Right? I mean, this is old data. This isn't new. So this is kind of pretty hard coded, this sort of stuff. But we click on it. I'm interested in this today, and it will take me to the report page that this number relates to. And that's where I say this is a menu system. Think of it as a menu system before you think of it as anything else. Because if you think each of those tiles potentially relates to a report page or report pages, and then you have, if you remember from our video earlier or last week, you then have the context of drilling to explore the data further. So we can see here, if we're looking at total fares, you can have a lot of total fares coming from, sorry, not much coming from JFK Airport. Is it a lot? Yeah, no, it's a lot, isn't it? Okay, so JFK Airport seems to be an area where we'd seem to do an awful lot of traffic, a lot of business. Not a big surprise there, is it? If we go here and look at Rikers Island, we're not doing that much business from Rikers Island. We look at the journey count, you'll see what I mean. You know, journey count, journeys to Rikers Island is 12. Okay, and versus journeys from JFK Airport. Okay, so we can see context is key, and it's great that we can start to explore and interact with our data. If you think through what's happening when I'm doing this, is everything on the page is adjusting to support the context. This is doing a cross highlighting for some of it, especially for these, which doesn't help. Filtering would probably be better. And there's definitely been a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I should set it to filter by default. And it's one of those things. But you can do this, and you can then make it very clear for people what is happening. You can establish drill-through capabilities so that they can drill and they can do more. You can ask it to analyze the data, right-click to analyze. One of the features that comes with Power BI, as you push further and go into Fabric, you then get the capabilities, don't you, to actually start to use Copilot to actually investigate and interrogate your data and see if it can come up with anything. I will be honest at this point now, okay, as you know, we've looked at Copilot several times and across a fairly extended period of time. There are things Copilot does very, very well, and there are things Copilot, is all I can say. What it does very, very well is write DAX measures and also supports M-script writing. So if you're writing M-script, you're doing that kind of thing, or you're doing DAX, Copilot can really help you get like a big jump on what you need to do. The challenge is, and this is, I think, the bit that from the conversations I've been having across the industry, I've done a couple of national committees as well around this, is that if we actually do push down and say in the UK we're going to really double down on AI, the issue that we face is that AI is great at allowing a beginner to code very well. Okay, you can code pretty well as a beginner. The challenge is that the code is about 80 to 90% there. It's not 100%. It takes someone who actually understands to go, oh, right, this is the fix for it. And it might be as simple as just a slight syntax error. It might be as simple as, oh, okay, there's actually the way you've done this is here. If I think about what I've done with the work we've just gone through, where I've had to write and investigate kind of what's going on with the YouTube API calls and what's the right API call to get this and that for it, I could read through the documentation, or I could have just said, Copilot, which is the API call to get watch hours per video? I can guarantee the Copilot one was probably quicker, but I've learned nothing about the YouTube API, right? And I know how to fix the API, I know how to fix what's going on, and I can do it. And so, yeah, okay, so the Copilot stuff that came back, there was a couple of things, there were column headers that were wrong, there was a couple of things, basics. It took a process that probably would have taken me normally 3 to 4 hours to do, took half an hour. So it's quicker. But I haven't learned as much as I would if I'd gone through and read the documentation and gone through and worked out the syntax and right, okay, this is what we need to do. It would take longer, but I would learn more. Copilot has helped. It's made it quicker. It needed somebody to go, okay, no, this is actually what you mean. That column value that you're returning isn't the one that you think. This is the one that you think that you're using to and updating it. It took some knowledge, and I think that's the concern, is that we aren't going to help with that. So where does that leave us with this? The idea of saying I should be able to just go and interrogate the data. Now, this is something which, I'll be honest, I mean, the whole time I've been working with Power BI, this is something that Microsoft's been pushing. Even now, in the April 2025 edition of Power BI Desktop, they're updating the language querying, so for the natural language processing. So if you now do tweaks to your natural language processing and add synonyms to it, you are locking the file at an April 2025 version and beyond. So there's something big coming, which is no doubt aligned with Fabric and the Copilot release into the Fabric capacities for tier 2 and above, suggests that they are doing something. Also seeing and looking at some of the press that's been going through, the big debate at the moment is around measure tables. Now, I'm a big believer in measure tables. Marco Russo, who is beyond reproach, I would say. He is definitely one of the best people, if not the best. Well, no, he's not the best, because between him and Alberto Ferrari, I don't know who is better. They may one day announce who is better, but between those two, I think that's the pinnacle of Power BI knowledge. He's saying, well, Microsoft are recommending we don't use measure tables, we use folders within the table structure. Now that works to an extent, and I think I've done a video where we say, well, you can do this with a fact table, because a good fact table you can hide. And the issue with a good fact table that you can hide is that that's great until you can't hide the fact table, because the realities are we need some fields from that fact table to actually explain what's going on and to be able to be used in report content. And yes, we shouldn't, but this is reality. Somebody wants to be able to get down to that particular invoice and see, well, what did that invoice look like? Who was that invoice to? What was going through? And we end up having to build a report that allows that to be viewed, some sort of a cross-report drill through. It'd be ideal for that, wouldn't it? But it means that we then end up having to, do we leave those fields visible? You don't need to. You can build the report and hide the fields, and that works. But nobody else can then do it if they say, well, I want to be able to do something in Excel. Create an Excel spreadsheet, blah, 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 do this, give me a list of the invoices. Here they are, here's the fields out of them. You could write it all as measures, of course you could, but you're adding workload to what you're going to do. So it's kind of, I don't know, be what I would say. It's a really it's a really difficult one. But I think the core point that came through, and I'm sorry, this is really turning into a big talky video. The core point was that this was one of those things that was being done to simplify modeling for AI. And the reality seems to be, I suspect, that Copilot is struggling with understanding the models that are in the Power BI service. And I don't blame it, because if I look at our Power BI service environment here that we look at from our demo site, we've got lots of stuff, okay, that frankly probably hasn't been touched. If we look at Fish, which was one did back in April 2020, wow, like, oh my goodness, 5 years ago exactly, that wasn't planned. If we look at this was around fish levels in the time. This was from a public data set, looking at fish levels in the time. It wasn't a rocket sciencey data set. It was a very simple one for a very early video. We looked to sort of say, well, look, this is kind of, you can see issues if you push too far with it, but pare it back a bit and it works a bit better. I forget the whole reasoning and what was going on with this. But the core thing is there going to be any real value in Copilot looking at this model? And the answer is probably not. Okay, and if you think through the amount of people who've learned Power BI, who are learning Power BI, who have dodgy models in, and I'm sure if we all put our hands up and say, oh, I've got everything in my business is perfect, I'm sure there's some workspaces around where somebody's got some dodgy stuff. I'm sure as well, as we're developing stuff, we're putting some really ropey bits together that we know aren't going to work, and it just ends up being saved for reference for later. Now, those are being examined by Copilot, at least at the schema level. It's one of the things, right? They're looking at schema, definitely. They're not supposed to be looking at the data, looking at schema. So broken schemas are going to cause Copilot problems. This was also mentioned to me before, that kind of if you look at ChatGPT, DeepSeek, all these other ones, Bard as well, they're looking at code repositories like GitHub and assessing, public code repository, great, got to look at it and learn my coding from there. And I think this is where the disconnect comes. How many broken repositories are they looking at? And does the engine know, oh, this is broke, not gonna, this is broken. But equally, that might be broken, but there's some amazing syntax in there that's really good. So you can't just say it's broken. It's kind of, it might be 90% right. It might be just a little bit broken. I think things like that are where this is going to kind of break down for us. So anyway, we digressed. Let's get back to this. So single pane of glass reporting, which is kind of the whole point of this. If we come back to this workspace, we can see, okay, we've got everything together, comes in, goes through, we've got multiple reports per semantic model, all coming through, and then we've got 2 dashboards. Okay, and 2 is fine. You could have 5, you could have 10. The main thing would be, if they're menus, make them easy, make them simple for people to navigate them. You do that, everything will be fine. You think through your audiences. What audiences are you going to actually have? Are you going to have, like if we were saying, like here, the senior leadership team, so the C-suite, for example, everyone in the C-suite, and then we might have an audience for CFO. We might have an audience for Chief People Officer. We might have an audience for CMO. Yeah? So they might have different audience levels. You might be really sensible and dare to do what Ross has always said to do, tongue in cheek, I have to say whenever I say it. But, you know, that we have a separate audience for the CEO, and they don't see the rest of the reports. They just see 3 lights. And it's either green, or it's amber, or it's red. Okay? And if it's green, you should just display a message. Go play golf. Okay? No, one of these days I'm going to build a report that does that. But the thing is, you can do that if you work through what your audiences are going to do. You're going to need to remember to think through about groups and group management. And that's one of the reasons why we published our O365 Group Manager. And I've clicked the wrong button, haven't I? But we can click through, it's fine. Okay, so in this one here, I'll just give you a quick demo of it, because I think it's a very useful tool for all we, you know, it's stupid, it's crap, I'll be the first to admit. The point of this was very much to kind of answer the question that we have. So first off, it checks out, it sees who's logged in. In the case of me, when you first connect up, it says, confirm your O365 credentials for users and for groups, because that's what it's going to need. It's going to look at you as a user, and obviously your colleagues to add or remove from the group. So it needs users. It also needs groups, because it needs to know, well, who's the owner of the group? Because all it's going to do is return, these are the groups that you are the owner of. So if I come back and I say, well, let's look at our New York City taxi report, and I say, get me the members, it goes away and it brings back me. It says, oh, you know, Ross is a member of it. And I could turn around and say, well, let's add our initial consultations group. Well, that's where if you actually decide you want to have a meeting with us, initial consultations as a group, we can add Danny to this. We say, let's add Danny. Say, there we go. Okay, and then that's done. Danny's been added to that group. I haven't had to do anything. I haven't had to involve IT. That was the key thing here. This is always one of those, let's make life simple for everyone and do it in such a way that you can just get on with life, get on with everything. The IT involvement piece is managing who's the owner. That's something that we haven't put in the app for obvious reasons. You can do it with an app. It's a bit more of a headache, and you need to get somebody in IT to make sure that to grant permissions to do that using the grant. But yeah, it can be done. But it's right that Microsoft say, yeah, nah, you shouldn't do that. We've covered a lot, really, in kind of that talky point where to move on, don't we? I thought, let's actually have a look and see kind of what we're talking about with the discussions around apps and where we go with it. So this is a dashboard that I built. Okay, this was kind of meant as here is the source of it, and then these are the dashboards to surface it up. What I want you to think about is this is about structures as to what you put something in that will work for your organization. So for the context of this was around saying, in New York, we've got the 5 boroughs. Those are all going to be most important. And then it's just gone in a descending order in terms of number of buildings that they have. So you've gone left as Manhattan, which has got the most buildings from the New York Water Tower data set, then Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, and then Staten Island. So you kind of got that descending order. So in an organization, you may say, well, this is going to be our sales and our finance, or finance and sales, or like that. But you have a clear structure that you can work through, and that's a mindset way of working. And then across there, we've got a list of buildings. So we've got a very clear indication. These are the buildings. Then we have the core metrics that we're going to use. Okay, and again, standardized across it. Okay, and then further down, we go standards and standards. So everything's very consistent. So from an audience perspective, they're going through and seeing consistency, which makes it easier for consumption. Now, in a business, your organization's KPIs for each division might well be different, but you can have some standards as well. So you can put those together and structure it in such a way. But what it builds is this very clear point of prevalence from the top down. So you have very top level specific KPI metric kind of things at the top. Going down to, as you can see here, we've got some maps, which is more detail, takes more time to assess and to understand. There's no, you can't just glance at it and go, okay, I see. You need to do some investigations within it. So we kind of get that structure that's built within it. From there, the next step is that we actually start to explore the data. So you can always click on these. And this is where we talk about that Power BI dashboards are really menus. So if I click on the inspections, for example, it will go and it will open up a report page. And in this case, it's the set that we built for it. Now, this is absolutely fine as a way of working. We could also do other things with it. And this is one of the things which I want you to kind of think through as we talk about it. Because within these, at the top of any of these little tiles, which are of course the limitation of dashboards, you're stuck with these stupid little tiles, you can't do anything else with them, which is really why it is a menu system. We can hit the edit details. And from here, we can set a custom link. And that custom link could be external. It could also be to a different report page. Okay, or to report itself. Again, enforces why we need small reports. Okay. One thing that you can do as well is you can put a visual on a page, pin it to a dashboard, and then kind of make it teeny weeny, or even potentially hide it. Because when you link to a report that you haven't as a custom link, that the visual isn't the source of, it will take you to the main page of that report, so the home page. It won't take you to a sub page. Again, this drives you to the mentality of effectively making sure you have a report for each and every tile here. 25 tiles to kind of go through and say, right, we've potentially got 25 reports, one for each of them. Now, given that for a lot of those, it would be, we've got, say, 5 reports, given we've got 5 top tiles here, okay, we could say, well, we've got 5 reports built. We can then just change the filter heading or the report filter for them to replicate them for each of these. That wouldn't take a huge amount of time. So we're saying 25 reports, but we're building 5 and then we're doing the detailed and deep dive beyond there. Extending on from there, we might well get to that point. If we went to, say, the map here, we might say, well, actually, how many of these inspections have been done by the owner? How many of the inspections, can we actually look at an owner's inspection? Can we look at something else? And it builds up this whole structure that you actually get where you're actually interrogating and deep diving into your data a lot more than you would be previously. Okay? I'll just check and see if we'd actually got this connected up. I can't remember what's in this workspace. We don't have problems creating multiple reports. And because we say, well, this report is going to be geared around, say, just the map, we look at the on time, the due, and the overdue only, it makes it really simple that we can kind of say, right, here we tailor this report to it. So what do I mean? What goes into building these reports? And bear in mind, these ones are kind of pretty horrible. This is one that I started piecing together based on where we've got. Okay. So we've got this product report, and it's Didn't take me too long to build. We've got a nice background on it, I think. Not the best, but it's there. But it's interactive, so we can kind of click on it and we can see, well, for September 2015, this is what happened. Pick March, through May 2015. We can then say, well, actually, I want to see what happens to tables. I can say, well, actually, I want to see all furniture. And I can hold down the control key and select all the furniture. And we can see the profit margins. We can see all sorts of information about it. So we've built this structure that allows us to do stuff like that. And it's not difficult. So all I can do then is I can say, I'm going to publish this, save it, and publish this to our B2B app 1. Okay. And the question you're going to say is, well, how do we do this? What do we need to do to make these things work? Okay. So there's a couple of things. First off, thing number 1, okay, is we need to go and create backgrounds. So this is one I did here for this. I'm just going to go and create a new blank presentation and let me show you kind of really what to do or how I did it. Okay. It's not difficult. It's not rocket sciencey. In terms of this, I'm just going to pick something. Let's pick this as our main page. Okay, so we've got like a nice beach picture, lovely. Personally, yeah, I do like picture backgrounds. I'm not going to lie about that. Let me actually try and make this full screen. It's annoying. It's got that stupid border on it. Okay, so we've got something like that. Okay, then all we need to do is to start to say, right, we're going to put in some shapes. So we insert shapes. Okay, and then depending on what you want to do, you can kind of do it your way. Okay, so pick that. 2, 3, 4. Lay them out. We've picked these kind of these weird shapes. You can do squares, you do rounded corners, whatever you want to do. Okay. What I would say is you kind of need to think about how your visuals are going to look and what you're going to do with it. If we look at the Jasmine Dean Parkrun one, the Newcastle Parkruns report. Let me get this back up. What I did here was we actually built the dashboard pages around here. So even these circles are actually on the image. Everything is built around it. And then we've got runners, which are very subtle behind it. But the idea was you should be able to see it, but it wouldn't impact on the visuals. So it kind of makes it more interesting. But really, if you think, and we go back to PowerPoint, you can see this was all just spaced out around so that it would work. Obviously, the flyout isn't there, so we had to allow space for that. But everything is tailored so that it produces something that is nice and structured and gives that visual interest to the content without overwhelming the audience. So practically, we tend to find for clients that we end up doing maybe 20 pages around that sort of a number in terms of laying out. In terms of for you, yeah, we could say, well, looking at this, we've got 1 page, 2 page, 2 pages, 3. Actually, then we go to the individual events, which would be 4. So we're kind of, that looks the same as the first one. So we've kind of got a small number of pages that we know about. Yeah, that's the same one as well. Okay? And it's, so you can keep your numbers down to around 5 or 6. It's not kind of impact you too much. The key thing is that you don't need to worry, because once you build them and you export them, everything's fine. I would say you want them to be kind of blurry a bit, nothing too sharp. If you want to do sharp and you want to really do stuff, you may need to change the resolution of your exports, which is one of the limitations or annoyances that you get with these. So out of the box, PowerPoint exports very small images, and you want those to be a different size. Now, there is an article to do it. I will put it in the link down below. I'm not going to go through how you do it. It's a registry edit change. If you're going to make changes like that, ideally you can't. I hope you don't have admin rights for a corporate environment. But otherwise, if you need to, then obviously engage with your IT team and they will support you in doing that. But out of the box, PowerPoint exports quite a low resolution. And by the time you actually use that on a computer and Power BI desktop, it can look bad. But you need to experiment and get the sizes right because you don't want the files to be too big for the background because that will, of course, impact on page loads. Okay? It's not a simple one. It's kind of one of those find the sweet spots. The easiest way, as I say, is blur the backgrounds a bit, blur stuff, especially the images that you have so that you don't get blocky lines or too blocky lines. And don't be afraid to make transparencies and to really hide a lot of it. But yeah, something to work through. So as I say, you build up your PowerPoint, you do what you need there, and then you go File, Export, change the file type, pick PNG, save as, give it a location, give it a name. I'm just going to do this. Cancel that, sorry. I'm just going to show you something just as a warning while I'm here. So some things and some people I've seen, I say, oh, it's fine. You don't need to do the registry edit because you can go to tools and compress picture and you can say, well, I want this. Yeah, no. Right. I've done some testing with it. Yeah, it just does not work. It should do because this is what it's supposed to do. So what you need to do is the registry edit. Practically, it's probably about between 150 and 200 is the practical size. It'll make sense if you decide to do the registry key. If you're quite happy with it though, just do this, save as. I'm just going to export this one, just this one. You can export the whole page file. Just be warned, it doesn't like overwriting previous ones if you do that, so you can kind of have to go and delete the original and then re-export it. It also can be quite slow, if I'm honest. For what it says, oh, really quick, it's not. So here we go. Here is our export. Wow, that's quite a big one. Over a megabyte, far too big. Maybe that did work, that graphics thing. When I tested yesterday and did all the testing prep for this, so we've got that, yeah. And we build up our report pages. We've got, as I say, I showed you here. This is what I built from the other one. You can see, let me, this. Okay, so we've got two pages. But you can see, you can build up the structures, you can make it quick and easy for you. And then all you need to do is when you go to Power BI Desktop, what we will do when we create a new blank report is we will connect to our, so recent sources, let's go connect to week 13. Once you've connected, of course, you get the visual, so you can see I've got my data model connected, I've got everything I need. When you have nothing selected on the page, you can then go to the selection window and the canvas background, browse, I'm going to pick slide 2, and you go, well, this is stupid, I can't see anything. Make it fit, always sensible, always make it fit, and turn the transparency down to 0. In terms of this, what I found worked better with this one was setting this to 60. Just, again, make it a little bit, help bleed it out a bit, because again, you don't want your background to overwhelm your data. So then what we can do is we can then start to overlay our visuals and what we want to put on there. Okay, so we can say, well, do we want time intelligence? Put year. I'm going to put year as a filter on all pages. Again, just pick the basic filtering, and we're going to pick 2014, isn't it, to 17 from memory. 17. And let's go with our total sales amount. Okay, and again, just remember time intelligence is always a little bit awkward when you try and piece these together. And let's put this by month year. Okay, and this should then be a nice table. Let's make this a matrix. Okay, so we've built up, here we go, a nice little matrix table showing us everything that we want to see. You see it builds it up. Definitely a level of detail too high to put on a front page of a report, but you can kind of see we've got this ability to drop things in and to actually start to see what's happening with everything. We could also say, well, actually, we don't want all of these time intelligence things, which is a nice thing you can do here. So we can say, well, what we want is current, month to date, last month to date, and month over month. Okay, we can say, well, this is all we're interested in as the view. It works very quickly, very easily to do. Okay, we can expand, we can build the report pages. We can put in text boxes. So I'll show you the text box piece because I think this is something which is really important. I keep promising to show you this. This is a title. We're going to have a title, and then we can put sold amount, quantity, profitability. Okay, and I'm just going to put colons after those, okay, just for the sake of it. Okay, so what do we do to add values, which is kind of what we showed you in the other one. So what we can do with this is one of those things, is you click values. This is where this becomes really useful. Okay, and again, this is where I go, the worst thing I picked was to do this use that stupid total thing. Okay, so pick sales amount. I'm going to say I want this to be currency and I don't want any decimal points. Click OK, that comes in. Okay, so this is going to be our quantity shipped as opposed to our quantity sold. Quantity shipped. Okay, we're going to say, well, it's not going to work. Total quantity shipped. There we go, right? Okay. Like that. Okay, you've got a name for it, so we could put this as quantity shipped. Okay, if you want. You don't need to, but it's good practice to do this. And one of the nice things you can do with this is we can go, let's create a new one. So this is going to be profit over, oh, didn't spell that right. We see IntelliSense gets in and it says, right, what are you looking to do? So profit over sales amount, I can pick total sales amount, and it says 0.12. Well, this is going to be a percentage. I don't want, let's just have one decimal place. Profitability. Okay, and hit save on there. Okay, so now we've got this, and what we can do here is we can, not here, we can click on here and we can see these are the measures that you've got in the review. We could, if you went through and said insert narrative and go with the custom, it builds a text box and it creates different ones. And that's where when you come here, it's blank. That's why you need to tick the show the auto-generated ones for there. That's what that relates to. But this then very quickly allows you to build up a text structure. So we can say, well, let's make that 40. You can do things, you can highlight the area, those numbers, and make them bold. Yeah, just to kind of emphasize them some more. It's up to you what you want to do. Okay, so there's a lot of subtlety that you can bring in to things like this. You can do a lot as well with your measures in terms of actually having one that's going to show an up arrow versus a down arrow, depending on, say, your MOM or something like that, your month over month figures. So you can actually get quite cute with how your visuals overlay and piece together on a page. Yeah, and don't forget that profitability doesn't even exist. It's just been made up as we went through and did that. Again, this is a secondary report. We still have the ability to create new visual calculations. We can do all that. So for all these are secondary reports and something that we might say, well, there's not much going on, or we're limited by it being a secondary report because the data model's not there. We really aren't. And then lastly, for all we can do visual calculations, we could do all this. The one thing that I always say we should do, and which I haven't done for this because of course I haven't done it for this, largely because we were having this discussion about should we have measure folders or not, is the ability to come through and create a new measure here. Okay, so we could create profitability here in this report. And that would then be something that we would need to say, well, this is a measure that exists just in this report. And we'd work through, is it worth evaluating the update for it? So we've got this second report now. So let's save this. Let me just publish this up. I'll call this week 14 demo. Okay. Nothing sensible about this report. This probably is not a report that you'd want, but I don't want to spend an inordinate amount of time building this stuff for you when we actually are going to go through and do it offline and review it next week. So we've got those two there, all right? So we can now, let's close that. Let's go back to our app workspace. Okay, and we can see we've got these starting to appear. We've got this sales dashboard. One of the things I wanted to show you, I kind of touched on it, is on product here, okay? What you note is we can't pin text boxes to a dashboard. So we can pin these to a dashboard. So we could turn around and say, well, we're going to pin this here to a dashboard. I didn't change the titles to all those, did I? Just realized. So let's pin this to it. We're going to floor this bit with you. I'll pin this actually. Okay, so we're going to pin this to the total one using the current theme or the destination theme. We're going to pin it. So we can then go back to here and go to the sales dashboard. So we can see we now have this, which is going to be in our latest year here. We can resize it. We can bring it up to the top. We can do anything we want with it within the confines of a report here. We can also, one thing you can do is under the edit details, we haven't really talked about, is we can actually change the title. So we did change titles before, but we've not really covered that this is something we can do. You can take to display the last refresh date. So when was it last refreshed in terms of the data, yeah, rather than the actual report or the visual actually. It's a bit of an odd one, but yeah, it's worth being aware of. And then, as I say, we can link it to a different report, set a custom link it to a different report, and pick the report that you want to link to. And this is why, as I say, you see, we don't have an option here. So if we link it to 2015, it's just 2015. It's not a particular page within the 2015 report. So it's one to be aware of or to understand what's going on with that, but it is what it is. So what we've got here is a clear way of building up dashboards, building up a menu structure. What you can also do is you can add, let me come back to here, let me go to here, and let's edit this, and let's go to sales amount, and let me pick month, year. For the sake of this, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to pick December 2017. Okay, if you imagine this would be like the current month figure. What we could do is we're going to make this a card. I'm going to pin this to a new dashboard. Dashboard 2. Okay, for the sake of argument, pin that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to put it behind here. Okay, so what we can do is if we go to the selection pane, this is one that kind of isn't really talked about much. Visual interactions. I don't remember where this is on here. Selection pane. Because I've got stuff right, isn't it? I'm in the service. Oh, there's view, isn't it? View selection pane. we've got the selection pane here. So we've got the card. What I can do is I can make this the lowest value, and then with the card selected, we go through and under general and properties, we need to maintain layer order. Okay, so that's always going to keep this at the bottom. Okay, so it's always going to be at the bottom. So we're not going to be able to really see it or interact with it. What I can do now is I can go to reading view, hit save, come out of here and go back to here. And then we see, oh, we've got dashboard 2. Oh, we've got a nice thing there. And I click on that and this takes me to here, but I have no way of selecting or seeing that visual. You can also hide them if you want to do it that way, and it works. But the point is that it doesn't necessarily need to be on the page. So that's effectively going to show us kind of this value here, and we'd then be able to do something based on it. But you're saying, well, that's a different menu. How do I get to dashboard 2? What we do is let's move this here, let's put this down here, and let's insert and edit, add a tile. We have blank, just one of these. And this is going to be back to main dashboard. Custom link to this, and then we're going to say this goes to select sales dashboard. Would help if I could spell. Back to main dashboard. Display a title. Back. Okay, so we've got this set up now. Why did that not save? Back to main dashboard. Back, display that. Go link to this. Custom link. Sales dashboard. Bye. There we go. The card. Go on that. So now we click on that and it goes there. Let's resize that. Put that over there. Lots of options that you can do. You could choose to bring in an image. You can do that. Okay. So we've now got, this is back to main image. We could likewise put another tile in, taking us to the other dashboard. Okay. Or we could put in, we could say, well, this is going to actually, we could edit details here. We could say this is going to take us to custom link going to dashboard 2 and apply. Okay, so then I come here, it goes dashboard 2, dashboard 1. So you can start to build up these structures that are going to work around and bring you across and through your data. And that navigability, the ability to really navigate and explore your data, is absolutely key to getting the most out of Power BI and your Power BI apps and what you build and deploy to your customer base. Which is why, really why, it then becomes increasingly infuriating, and we will quickly cover this as well, that back here, so we've got an app now, we've put all this additional stuff in. If I go back to our app here now, okay, you've watched me put this in, go to our app, okay, and it is B2B1, doesn't show it, okay, it doesn't show the updates to it. I don't know that this report, this 2016 report, is the same as the one that's in the workspace because of the way it does this shadow copy of it. I'm saying shadow copy, which is the wrong terminology. Shadow copy is a term from server backups. It takes a duplicate of the report, and that's then what is used by the app. And that duplicate, that kind of app structure, you cannot pull back to actually validate. So the only way to validate that 2016 is 2016 is to, let's go to duplicate this. Okay. And I wish this was better. This is one of the things I go, oh, it's terrible, I don't understand. For all I'm going to say, oh, it's terrible, I don't understand, I kind of agree with it because of the amount of work I've done now with Power BI. It's one of those where it's really painful. but it probably is the right way, because this is our new app that we're going to update on X day. This is going to be going live. So everything's prepared. We can take people through, we can demonstrate it. And then at the right time, we go and we hit update the app. Okay. You see, we've got this deployment pipeline as well. The deployment pipeline doesn't support the app properly, would be what I would say. It supports the content of the workspace. So you can bring workspace content through, but you still have to manually deploy the app. So you could say, well, we use deployment pipelines to make sure people don't have the right to edit this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the app has always been updated as edits have come through. So again, you end up with this concept that potentially your app is a version or two behind your approved version, and your approved version was never published, and people never recognized that or never reported it. So it is definitely something to be aware of, and knowing that, well, the only option we have is to hit here and then say, right, eyeball the difference. Is this the same as this? Is this map the same? Hover over here, we get that. Hover over here, we get the same. Hover over here, we get this. Hover over here, we get that. That's the only way, because if I come in here and I say, oh, well, I'm just going to edit it, and I go hit, and it is, click the little pencil icon, go to edit. That brings me to the workspace view, which is then looking at, that's the version I've just published and not what I'm looking at. So apps are great. They are brilliant, and I really swear by them. They are the best way of actually getting your customers into Power BI content. But you have to be aware of this issue. You really have to be aware of this issue. And this is why one of the things we really talk about is make sure you manage who has access to your workspaces. Reduce as much as possible people accessing workspace content, because there's nothing worse than having a two-tier reporting environment. Because what will happen is, I can guarantee you end up with, say, an analyst view in your workspace where people are looking at stuff, and you've got your senior leadership team looking at the app view, which is different. And then suddenly you do an update and you update the app, and your senior leadership team are suddenly alienated because their view has massively changed and they weren't informed. For all they knew, the change were coming, they're seeing everything's fine, there's not a problem. Or you don't push it through and do that because you've got into this idea of, well, we can do it all programmatically. If no one knows, somebody is going through and hitting update app. Yeah, update app at the bottom there. And it's not complete until you do that. No one knows. So you need to make sure that you've got that awareness that all the programmatic tools, all the CI/CD, CDCI tooling that's out there is not going to do that, because there is no API to allow you to update the app. Okay, Microsoft haven't released it. It isn't there. I don't know how I feel about it fully. I can, as I say, I understand the benefits of it not being there, and I also understand that it's a problem it not being there. So it's one you need to be aware of. So what do you reckon then? Okay, there's an awful lot that we need to talk about that we go through with this. Okay? I will definitely say check out GitHub, check out stuff, because I'm going to try and work out how we piece together and put something in that's going to allow you to see what it is we build. It'll probably be like a PDF or something like that showing you the structures, and we'll take you through it next week, because what we're going to do is start talking about how do we document all this. Okay, we've built these apps, we've built all this. How does documentation look like? What should documentation consist of? And one of the things that we need to be aware of course, and think about and decide, and this is again going just back to you as well as me, how do we handle end user documentation on our Power BI report content, especially if we consider a single pane of glass as the way we want our business to operate? And the reason I'm saying that is, if we think back to the New York one, our senior leadership team dashboard, we had 3 data sets being involved in there. So any one of those could be updated through other work that's going to go on throughout the life cycle of it. And any of those work items could cause me to have out-of-date documentation. So what is the right thing to do with that? Is there a better way we can actually piece together and do that documentation as a whole and think about, well, how can we put in end user documentation for an app to make it simple and easy for it? Yeah. If you like what you see, and I'm sure a lot of you are going like, oh, that was really difficult, my head hurts, okay? We're going to make sure we put chapters in for this one. We're going to make sure that we've got a lot more content around this. And this is one that there's just a lot of stuff that just needs to land, and you need to really be thinking about if you're going to push forward and have Power BI in your environment. Don't forget, I'm a massive advocate of Power BI. I love it. I think it's great. But I think there's some real realities that you need to be aware of. Otherwise, they become gotchas, and that will just break what you do. So think about it heavily, okay? If in doubt, get in touch with us, okay? Hit the QR code, book a meeting. We're happy to discuss what we need, what we'd recommend, what you can do. And it might be a case saying, do you know what? Let's get some consultancy involved. Let's ask us to help you. If you don't want us to help you, it's fine. Happy to point you in the right direction. Happy to steer you, okay? For now, though, stay safe. Take care. Ta-da.